Green and gold.
Look at the 8. Go.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good evening and welcome. We are broadcasting live. We are at Bullwinkles in the Galleria here in Brookfield, and it is their new location, and I love it. The first time in here, we got to be honest with you. First time in here, and it is absolutely fantastic. And didn't realize it was this nice. Otherwise, I've been here a long time ago, to be quite honest with you. But it is absolutely fantastic. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They have Bud Light specials going on in here tonight as well. But Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Huddle, and we thank them for being here. So you can come on in tonight and get registered to win a big screen TV at the end of the season. They're giving away shirts and hats and tchotchkes and specials on Bud Light tonight. So no reason not to come out. Not to mention the food is fantastic. I told you earlier today I was waiting for that buffalo chicken salad. I finally got it. If you follow me over on the Facebook fan page, you saw some of the pictures that I took. But what a terrific, terrific place. They did a fantastic job in the relocation. And it's right behind Cops on Blue Mountain Road, and you can't miss it in the Galleria. It is just a wonderful, wonderful place. So kudos to the staff and management and ownership of the brand new Bullwinkles in the Galleria. It's a matchup of the top teams in terms of regular season winning percentage. Since 2008, these are the two winningest teams that the NFL has to offer. New England 164-64-0 with a 719 winning percent. The Green Bay Packers 649 with 147-79 and 2 winning percentage and such. And the two teams have split the last couple of matchups with both teams winning at home. And 2 of the last 3 contests between the two teams have been decided by a combined 9 points. I don't know if it's going to end up being that way in this particular contest, but we shall see. I mean, no Mac Jones. He did not practice today as expected. I know Bill Belichick, playing Bill Belichickian coy commentary, said that, well, he's done really well over the last 24, 48 hours. He's day-to-day. He's not going to play. Brian Hoyer is going to get the start. Green Bay Packers are going to have to face Brian Hoyer. In the meantime, the Packers, they've got a couple of guys. Elton Jenkins sat out today of practice, more or less a rest day, I would assume, coming back from his knee injury. And then also you've got a couple of guys that were down. Nothing major, like I said. It's just more so via one was illness, as a matter of fact. And that was from who was that? Caleb Jones, the big defensive tackle or big offensive tackle. But Lazard still got the ankle. He was limited. Mercedes Lewis with the groin. Christian Watson with the hamstring. He was limited today. David Bakhtiari was practicing today. It was more of a walkthrough day today. And Jair Alexander, good to see him back today. He was also limited in practice. A.J. Dillon with a knee, limited. Jonathan Garvin has the hip issue. He was limited. But everything else, pretty good. And like I had mentioned, no Mac Jones today with the ankle injury. He did not participate. So that's where these two teams stand right now when it comes to the injury bug. Today, got a lot going on. We're going to hear from Mark Schofield from SB Nation. Going to be coming up a little bit later on this evening and about 10 minutes from now. Also, Mike Clemens going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We got an hour and, say, 25-ish minutes from now. Our buddy Chuck Freimund is going to give us a buzz, and we're going to talk with Chucker about what he has upcoming. And we're going to hear from Randall Cobb and Randall Cobb. So let's do this. We are going to hear from Randall Cobb coming up after probably about 35, 40 minutes from now. So that's going to happen. But Mike Clemens tweeting out that Randall Cobb says Aaron Rodgers made a great read on a linebacker and an RPO that Cobb, that was the one he gained 40 yards on after missing practice all last week with an illness, saying, quote, I was pretty sick. I tested positive for COVID. It wasn't like I was just down or stuff. I slept 13 hours one day. So Randall Cobb not at practice last week. Now we know why, because he had COVID, but they don't have the same. It's the word COVID still gives people the willies. Now it's go home, go to bed, get your rest. Once you feel better, come back, and you're good to go. It's not like you got to go through all the quarantines and all the procedures and the protocols and all that kind of stuff. They don't want you to give it the entire team, obviously, but when you're good to come back, you're good to come back. That's the way they're kind of looking at it. So anyway, that was what Randall Cobb had to say a little bit earlier today. You're going to hear that coming up here in just a little bit. In the meantime, you still have some really popular games this weekend, and I'm looking forward to this weekend of the NFL matchups. Now, we're going to go through some picks a little bit later on in the program, but you've got a good one coming up on Thursday night. The Dolphins taking that 3-0 record. Tua coming off of that big win against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills basically outgained the Dolphins almost 2-1, and yet the Dolphins walked away with a victory. So Tua going on the road with that undefeated record, trying to prove himself once again. In the meantime, Joe Burrow and company in Cincinnati, even though they're going to be without their starting defensive tackle, their best defensive player as well because of injury. But Cincinnati, who finally kind of righted the ship, but they did it against the Jets. We don't really know how good Cincinnati is, and their offensive line still, for the most part, sucks. But Joe Burrow threw 3 touchdowns, no picks, had a really good day. And they're going to be playing in the jungle coming up on Thursday night. Some other games, obviously, over in London. You're going to get the Vikings and the Saints. Another good game coming up on Sunday. The Bills on the road taking on the Ravens. That is going to be one of the games to circle and watch. A couple of the other ones that you might want to pay attention to, obviously. You got the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. That's going to be Sunday night football, and we are waiting to find out if that game will be moved. Tampa Bay did not take a direct hit from Hurricane Ian. That storm, as it was trudging forward and northward, ended up taking a hard right-hand turn into the Fort Myers Beach area, sparing Tampa Bay from the direct hit. But obviously, you've seen a lot of the pictures today. The storm surges are huge. It's a very slow-moving eye wall. It's doing a lot of damage, wreaking a lot of havoc right now down there in the Gulf of Mexico side of Florida, in the Fort Myers Beach, Naples, Florida, Marco Island, Florida. All in those areas really, really hit hard today. So whether or not they move that game, we'll wait and see. But if they don't move it, it'll be in Tampa Bay. If they do move it, it is going to be in Minneapolis up at U.S. Bank Stadium. One of the other games, obviously, we're going to be paying attention to, the Monday night game, the Rams, Western Division rivalry. The Rams and the 49ers going to be kicking things off against one another. So a good week of football, a really good week of football. Some really interesting contests coming up this weekend. So I'm excited for it. It all begins tomorrow night. By the way, speaking of tomorrow night we will be in La Crosse, Wisconsin. After the show tomorrow, heading out to La Crosse. We will be there. I think there's a tasting tomorrow night out at the German Fest grounds, the Oktoberfest grounds. So I think I'm imbibing tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that. But tonight we are here. We're at Bullwinkles for the Bill Michaels Huddle, and it's all brought to you by, like I said, our friends over there at Bud Light. From earlier today, we were talking about the ability for the Green Bay Packers offensively to keep winning this way. I thought it was interesting. Tim had gotten a hold of us and shot us an email and said, as long as the Packers win, it doesn't matter what way they win. If they have a lot of motion, if they have a lot of movement, misdirection, and they run the offense in that fashion, this team can continue to win and continue to churn out yards. I'm not worried about the Green Bay Packers and throwing downfield right now. I want to explain that. Okay, and Tim listening tonight on the Bud Light live stream, I want to explain that because the statistic I gave earlier today was in passes completed so far this year for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, the average length of downfield pass is 3.5 yards. Now, statistically speaking, there's a couple of SB Nation has it rated a little bit higher, and Pro Football Focus a little bit less. But the bottom line is it's still the lowest in the National Football League. A lot of the reason is because they're checkdowns. They're doing those little pitches out of the backfield that count as passes, even though they're little shovel passes, basically. And because they have not had big downfield chunks. They have not had that opportunity. So they have not hit on those plays. And many of the plays that they have hit on that have garnered big yards have been short passes that have been more yards after the catch than actual downfield passing yards. So the question becomes, and what that indicates is, can the Packers continue to win this way if it would indeed stay that way all season? Now, I bring it up because when you're winning, it doesn't matter. When you're winning games, it doesn't matter. But when you get into a situation where you have to go downfield, say in a 2-minute offense, say you're down 7, you got to go 80 yards in a minute 30, minute 50, whatever. Who's your downfield threat? Do you have the ability to go downfield? And two things rely upon that. One is if somebody gets open. If you got a go-to guy, is it going to be Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson when he comes back, Sammy Watkins when he comes back? Who is it? Who's that guy that can get open downfield? And then you think about this, it's whether or not Rodgers has time. Some of the passes he's thrown, while he is standing back in the pocket, he's had to run for his life. The offensive line early on, specifically against the Vikings, was not good. It wasn't good. So if you're not getting time to throw the football, you can't wait for things to open up downfield. They go hand in hand. So now that his offensive line is pretty much, for the most part, solidified, and you believe that Bakhtiari is going to get more and more time, now we'll wait and see what they do to kind of make up the rest of the offensive line. Does Elton Jenkins stay out at right tackle? Do they put Yosh Nijman over there? Do they move him around? Do they bring Elton Jenkins, who's been a better guard than a tackle? Do they bring him in? Do they solidify that right side of the line by putting Yosh out to the right tackle, Elton Jenkins at the right guard, leave Josh Myers in the middle? Then you got John Runyon at the left guard position along with David Bakhtiari. Do they do that, or do they continue to move guys around? The bottom line is, once it gets settled and the offensive line is good, it's always been one of the best pass-blocking offensive lines in National Football League. Once it gets good, then do they set up and have a little bit more time to allow things to develop and go downfield? That's what you're looking for. And that's when that number, that 3.5, 4.5 number, will begin to rise for Aaron Rodgers and passing downfield. That's all that is. It's merely a statistic. That's it. It's merely a statistic. It's nothing more, but it's one of those things that sometimes you read that stuff and you're like, wait a minute, that's not an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. That's not what the MVP does. He takes shots. He wings the ball, man. He does it precisely. He does it cautiously, but he does it. And they haven't been able to really do that with any consistency this year. So you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm asking. But I wanted to kind of explain myself because I wanted to make sure you understood what the thought process was. So that's all. That's all that was. If you have something to say, you can hit us up on the Bud Light live stream. We'll try to get to questions. Maybe some thoughts today. If you're following us, plenty of ways to follow the program. You can hit us up on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, at Bill_Michaels. You can follow us over on the Facebook fan page. Go to Facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show, Facebook.com/The Bill Michaels Show. And you can also follow us on YouTube, simply YouTube.com/Bill Michaels Show. Same thing over on Twitch TV. Follow us on Twitter. You can watch the program once the link comes up on Twitter as well. And you can also email the program in that facet also. So plenty of ways to get to us. Let's do this. We're going to hear from Mark Schofield when we come back. We are broadcasting live. We're at Bullwinkles Pub and Grill out here in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Come on by and say hi. We would love to have you. We're brought to you by our friends over there at Bud Light. They are the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back. Mark Schofield of SB Nation coming up next.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. Bill Michaels Show. We are broadcasting live. We're at Bullwinkles in the Galleria. That's where you can find us. We're in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Terrific place. My God, they did a great job in this place. They the old one went by the wayside. Land was purchased, and they tore it down. It's being built into hotels and different things over there. And the new one came down to the Galleria. The old Mamma Mia's down here behind Cops. Great place. And they have Bud Light specials going on all night tonight. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And we bring him in now, our buddy Mark Schofield from SB Nation. You can get a hold of him on Twitter at Mark Schofield. Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Bill. Great to be with you this afternoon. Always excited to hop on and talk a little football with you each Wednesday.
So let's start off with, I brought up a stat today, and I want to jump into this real quick, and then we'll talk more about the NFL overall. But so far, Aaron Rodgers' average pass downfield is 3.5 yards per pass. Can you win consistently in the NFL like that?
You can, but it does give you, in some ways, a smaller margin for error. I mean, I'm looking up the NFL Next Gen stats right now, and they have intended air yards, which is extremely similar. And, you know, it's 5.1 intended air yards per throw. And of the quarterbacks they track, that's last in the league. I mean, Kyler Murray is second to last, and he's at 6. So it's certainly low. What it requires is you're going to have to sustain drives because you sort of don't have that explosive element to rely on. You don't just, you don't have these 3-4 play drives where it's a big sharp play. You have to execute down to down on 10, 11, 12 play drives. And that gives you, again, a small margin for error because you get behind the stick suddenly, and now with that kind of offense, you've made life tougher on yourself. So it does give you that smaller margin for error. I also think, though, we're seeing scoring down league-wide right now. We're seeing other quarterbacks that have sort of pushed the ball downfield in years past or have the ability to do so. They're sort of being forced to work underneath. For example, Justin Herbert, similar sort of discussion with him, right? That sort of intended air yards number, it's 6.8 for him, and that's an offense that people think could be more explosive in the downfield passing game. Now, obviously, 6.8, 5.1, there's a difference there, but you're seeing other offenses deal with what defenses are doing, 2 deep safeties and things like that. And so, can you win that way? Yeah. I think teams are having to adjust to what defenses are showing them, but it also is making it a little bit harder on yourself because you have to be almost perfect.
The NFL in general, like you said, scoring is down, but some quarterbacks are playing at a really high level. Obviously, Tua is, Lamar Jackson is, Joe Burrow finally got going with 3 touchdown passes last weekend against the Jets. Right now, who is kind of, because people are kind of looking over the fence going, is Tua for real or not now that he has weapons? Because everybody thought down in Miami that if they're putting all the weapons in the basket for him and now it's up to him to sink or swim. It certainly looks like he's playing a lot better, but they're not being very prolific in doing it when it comes to scoring points and racking up yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange down there in Miami because they haven't had a ton of possessions. I think they've run 167 plays this year, which is 28th in the league in terms of plays that they've run. In that first game against New England, they were sort of limited in possessions. That was a game that was sort of a slower slugfest. And obviously last week against Buffalo, I think they only ran something like 30 or 40 plays. The Bills had the ball for the bulk of it. So I think that's kind of skewing some of the numbers that we're seeing out of Miami. But I think with respect to Tua, you're seeing improvement from him, improvement from the pocket. One of the things I looked at in a piece that I actually put up today at SB Nation was expected points added on RPO versus non-RPO plays last year. And they were so propped up by the RPO scheme last year that whenever it was a traditional drop back, we had a negative EPA on his throws last year. This year, it's much different. They've been productive on both RPO and non-RPO plays. He's sort of working defenses and breaking defenses down with his eyes, with his mind, with his decisions. And so I think he showed this year that he can go beyond sort of the scheme and what the scheme gives him. So I think I'm really started to buy in on this offense. I'm really started to buy in on the development and the growth we've seen from Tua so far this year. I think the smaller sample size with the limited possessions in the first game and the third game are kind of skewing some of the numbers a bit. But I think what we're seeing on the field when they have the football is an offense that is built to win in today's NFL.
Obviously, the Bills take on the Ravens this weekend. Two prolific quarterbacks, two teams that are expected to be in the postseason. That's really kind of the matchup. Both teams also 2-1. The Ravens got beat at home by Tua and company, and the Bills have been beaten by Tua and company. So I look at this game and I think, well, both teams have been gotten, but is this for like some level of supremacy in the AFC right now early on?
I think to an extent it is. I mean, you look at both teams, and like you said, they do both look like they're built to be contenders in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. Two, like you said, very prolific quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is playing at an incredibly high level right now. I mean, he has more touchdowns than a lot of teams do right now. I think like half of the NFL teams don't have the 12 touchdowns on offense that he has this year. And so I think putting Miami to the side, I think as you sort of step back and look at the AFC as a whole, you look at Baltimore, you look at Buffalo, you look at the rosters, you look at the quarterbacks, you think these are two very good teams, especially when you factor in the AFC West has kind of underwhelmed us to this point. When you start thinking, okay, who are the really good teams in the AFC right now? It's hard to come up with any teams other than Miami that you would put ahead of these two teams, Buffalo and Baltimore.
The game coming up on Sunday with the Vikings and the Saints. Now, will a real Vikings club please stand up? They beat the snot out of the Packers in week 1, came after Aaron Rodgers, hit him, sacked him, the whole thing, and then they get knocked off, and then they have to hold on late just to be able to come back and beat the Lions at home. So are the Vikings for real, or do we look at them and go, you know what, they just spent all their energy on week 1 and everything else has been mediocre ever since?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Vikings. And you see what happens that Monday night game against Philadelphia. Maybe what that tells us is more about Philadelphia and the Eagles and what they have than anything else. But when you look last week, and I've talked about the Lions, I've said they were going to be feisty, but still, what does that offense look like when Justin Jefferson gets doubled, gets bracketed, and you kind of saw that he only had the 3 catches, but they were still able to find a way to win. I don't know what to make of Minnesota right now. And I think ultimately it comes down to, as it does with so many teams, Kirk Cousins in the quarterback position. And I'm just still very skeptical of him, particularly against pressure, particularly in pressure moments, particularly in big game situations. And until I'm dissuaded from that belief, until I'm moved off that opinion, it's hard for me to buy into Minnesota.
The game coming up Thursday night, we talk about Tua, and then you got Joe Burrow, who had 3 touchdown passes, but only sacked twice, which is an anomaly for him. And he's probably going home and saying, thank God. But he's been hit 15 times, sacked 15 times, and hit 29 times so far this year. Now, only sacked twice in the game last week against the Jets, who are not that good, we all know. What can we expect on Thursday night between these two quarterbacks and pressure on both?
Yeah, I mean, obviously what Cincinnati's going to have a plan for is what Miami does defensively, that zero blitz look where they put a man across the board, they just bring the house after you. It's one of the things schematically that we're seeing teams lean into. Miami leans into it perhaps more than most. Now, in the past, Burrow and the Bengals have had answers for that. They'll check to screens. They'll check to some quick game stuff to get the football out of its hands quicker. So that's one of the things that we'll be watching Thursday night. Obviously, we're also sort of watching an injury situation with Tua. We had the hit It looked like he hit his head on the turf against Buffalo, and then it was turned to be a back injury that he's dealing with. And so, we'll watch for that. But the main thing is protecting Burrow in the face of these zero blitz looks you're going to see from Josh Boyer and the Miami Dolphins defense. They were better in protection against the New York Jets, but they have to get away from their own schematic tendency of line up in the shotgun, we're going to throw it. Line up under center, we're going to run it. They were very predictable over the first 2 weeks. They tried to mix that up a little bit more last week against the Jets. That's something else I'll be watching for on Thursday night.
Let's talk about Philadelphia, the team that doesn't really get a lot of respect when we start talking about postseason. And Jalen Hurts, quarterback rating of 106.5. He's only thrown for 4 touchdowns and has a pick. But the Eagles look real, and they look good. They look balanced. Give me your thoughts on the Eagles.
I think they look fantastic. I think defensively, against Minnesota in week 2, they brought more pressure, a little bit more aggressive. Last week against Washington, where they got the Carson Wentz 9 times, it was really pressure with 4. They would play softer coverages, probably numbers in the secondary, but guys like Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, they were getting some pressure early and often. They got some interior push and pressure as well. So I think that they are built to win defensively a couple of different ways. They can be aggressive at times. They can win with 4 at times. But similar to the discussion we were having about some of these other teams, you look at the quarterback position on the offensive side of the ball, and you're seeing that growth and development from Jalen Hurts, making reads and throws from the pocket on a more consistent down-to-down basis, which is something Eagles fans have been looking and clamoring for basically all summer with Jalen Hurts. That's a huge part of what they've done. Now, the one little thing that sort of worries me, over the last 2 weeks, pretty much nothing offensively in the second half. Minnesota kind of quieted that offense a little bit. Similar situation with Washington. They gotten out to some leads and they kind of sat on it a bit. That's working so far, but when you start getting the games later in the season, games might be closer, weather and things like that. Will they be able to sort of have some post-halftime success on the offensive side of the ball? That's something I'm going to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks with Philadelphia.
Talking with Mark Schofield, SB Nation, at Mark Schofield, and you can find his stuff there. The West in the AFC and the NFC was supposed to be this juggernaut of teams. Both have been somewhat failures to this point. I thought the Cardinals would be better. The Rams, obviously, after getting beat, they've won now 2 straight. San Francisco's 1-2. They're not that great. Denver just doesn't, even though they're 2-1, they look terrible doing it. And we know the Raiders absolutely stink on ice. So give me your thoughts on both West Conference or both West divisions right now and the flaws that we thought they didn't have that they now have.
Yeah, particularly in the AFC. Bill, how many times did I come on with you over the offseason and into training camp and say, the best team in the AFC is besides the Bills, whoever comes out of the West, right? Because that division is going to be fantastic. The team that wins that division is going to be built to win in the postseason. I probably said that a dozen times, if not more. And right now, do you trust? Denver's 2-1. Does that feel like a robust 2-1 to you? Or does that feel like a paper thin 2-1? Because that's what it feels like to me.
Yep.
Kansas City, special teams miscues, fake field goals. Now they're hoping to get their kicker back. It seems like there's frustration. We saw the incident with Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy at the end of the first half, so it seems like the frustration is there. Then obviously the Chargers, the team that everybody loved during training camp, everybody seems to be hurt right now. And so you've got Justin Herbert hurt, Rashawn Slater is hurt, lots of injuries mounting there, and obviously the Raiders situation. That AFC West is one of the things that I think we all got wrong. Myself, forefront among that group, because we thought it was going to be a great division, and it's kind of not looking too great right now. But over in the NFC, I think you've got a similar array of issues playing out. You've got the quarterback situation in San Francisco, which Jimmy Garoppolo is and is not as a quarterback, and so that's kind of what we saw play out on Sunday night. The limitations in the passing game, when he's under center for them. Questions about Arizona. That offense seems to be struggling right now, and is Cliff Kingsbury going to find a way out of the struggles they're having on offense? The Rams, they've dealt with a little bit of injuries, questions about Matthew Stafford, so you've got issues there. And then the Seahawks, despite their week 1 win against Russell Wilson, now you're seeing what that team might look like in reality. And so the West looks rougher certainly than we thought it was going to be on the AFC side. And, I think ultimately Kansas City is going to figure things out like they did last year, but a lot more questions than answers in both divisions right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Real quick before I let you go, and going back to the Green Bay Packers, coming up this weekend, they have got, it looks like it's going to be Brian Hoyer. I know that Bill Belichick is saying Mac Jones is making progress to kind of keep everybody, off the beaten path. We know it's a high ankle sprain. It's going to take him a while to come back. So that being said, what do the Patriots, what kind of problems do they pose that could really hinder what the Packers want to do?
I mean, I watched that game this morning. We watched that Patriots offense against Baltimore, and early in that game, the first 2+ quarters, they were kind of clicking on offense. They were clicking on the passing game. Mac Jones looked comfortable, confident, decisive in the pocket, but then started to lock it in on Devontae Parker. Now with him, he's not going to play this week, and I would be stunned if he's going to be hit back any time before, say, later in October. High ankle sprain, never a good injury. With Brian Hoyer, you're probably going to see more play action. You're going to see more from the run game. The story this offseason about the New England Patriots was they ran everything to the outside, to the edges, outside zone, but they've been more of an interior run gap and power team. This is not a defensive front where I'd want to run interior gap and power stuff, given what you have in the interior of that defensive line. There's a reason the number is going in from Vegas what it is. It does not look right now like this is a matchup that the Patriots are built to win.
Always good to talk to you, my friend. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll get back together soon, okay?
Sounds great, Bill. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
There you go. That's our buddy Mark Schofield of SB Nation. Go to at Mark Schofield over on Twitter. You can find him there. Good stuff from him. Certainly appreciate him coming on the program and joining us. When we come back, we're going to check in with Mike Clemens, who was in Green Bay a little bit earlier today. And we're going to talk with him about the practice and about some of the comments he got from Randall Cobb. All of that coming up. Stay tuned. We got a lot more. The Bill Michaels Huddle presented by our friends over there at Bud Light. We are right here at Bullwinkles in the Galleria, right behind the old Cops. Cops is still here, by the way, but right behind Cops on Blue Mountain Road. Great stuff. Stop on in and say hi. Bud Light specials all night long, giving away hats and shirts and tchotchkes and Bud Light specials. Good stuff. Come on out. We'll be back after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes.
Excuse me. For those of you on the Bud Light live stream, sound good? Oh, okay, good now. Good. Dylan, you can always listen to it and go back and check out the podcast over at the website, which is thebillmichaels.com, thebillmichaels.com. You can always watch it on YouTube as well, on demand. Just find the channel, Bill Michaels Show, and find us there. And you can track it down that way. Subscribe, and it'll pop right up for you.
Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes.
And we continue to get more and more people, as a matter of fact, that subscribe. Sounds good on WOSQ. Our friends up in Marshfield. Good stuff. A woman just left here that I can only describe as Sasquatch's bride.
Bill Michaels
That was a
will
big lady.
resume in 3 minutes.
That was a big lady. Okay, here we go. That was huge. Mike Clemens live from the club with Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker. We'll see what Mike's got himself into. Tell you what I miss. I miss doing this show outside, smoking a cigar. That's what I miss. Yeah, Rick, I'd love to come north and do it, but Budweiser pays for them. San Antonio, Texas. Scott, how we looking? This is either a lot of couples or a lot of women in this place. Who knew? We drink Bud up here too. I know that. Got to maybe do a show at Nuts Deep. Got to get a hold of our friends over at WOSQ. I don't know who's left at WOSQ. I know that they just run the programming, but I don't know if they actually have on-air personalities at WOSQ anymore.
Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
Boy, the food looks good here. My God, that looks good. Seasoned fries, smoked mac and cheese, good wraps, potato chips.
Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
They don't have the big moose head in here anymore, though. That's disappointing. Big wood carving of a moose. Oh, looks like he's leaning back on a pole waiting for somebody to pay for his junk is what it looks like. Oh, shit. That's funny. I don't care who you are. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you, the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are on the air. We are here in Brookfield, Wisconsin at Bullwinkles, the new Bullwinkles in the Galleria, right behind Cops on Blue Mountain Road. Come on back and say hi. We now go up to our buddy Mike Clemens, who apparently is at the club. He's with Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, hanging out and making it rain, I guess. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
At a microbrewery that's right across the street from Lambeau Field. We're on McCarthy Way, Mike McCarthy Way.
Yeah.
And it's Rookie, the morning show host from, you're the Bill Michaels Show affiliate in Green Bay,
right?
The Fan, and he's doing a little local radio show up here. So we're talking to Devondre Campbell, who had that huge play to swat away that two-point conversion against Tom Brady. And he talked about that play really for the first time because he just did a couple of quick things before he got onto the team bus Sunday night down in Tampa to say, they recognized when Russell Gate ran across the way, and then Gage, and then he and Darnell Savage knew what was coming and where to go in that part of the end zone. When Brady released the football, he didn't realize he could get that high. But he got his hand right on it. And he said he knew that if he missed the ball, that Savage was in great position to deflect the pass from the intended receiver. So, and then there's about 300 Packer fans in here tonight, and they all gave him a huge round of applause because that was the play of the game, the turning point.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The fact that they recognize it. Now the question is, did they get any help from Aaron Rodgers off the jumbotron for recognizing it?
Yeah, so Rodgers talked more about that today to his off mic, and he says, I did not see an iPad, or a Surface tablet or something. It's something I'd seen. It was actually a few plays before the two-point conversion, but I guess he was just making a point that he was he's surprised when he's at Lambeau or some of these places on the road, things that do get put up that actually help him as a football player decipher X's and O's or personnel changes, those kinds of things. And then, if there's something he could see, I mean, Flora by all means says, come up to me and talk to me about it. I had a great conversation with Rogers today. I played him a clip that I will play on your show on Friday when you and I went to the Super Bowl in San Francisco and then up to Chico to talk to his coaches at Pleasant Valley High and at Butte. One of his coaches talked about the time when he was a sophomore on the JV team at quarterback, and they had 12 men on the field, and the clock was running down. He had time for one last play, and he stared at the coach like, "Don't call timeout." And he came to the line, got the snap, threw a 20-yard pass that was good for a touchdown, and just like, let's get off the field.
Right.
And they got away with a walk-off touchdown with 12 men on the field, and the refs or nobody else ever picked that up. And one other thing while I'm talking about Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker's from Georgia and played at Georgia.
Uh-huh.
But the question for Devondre was, you're originally from Florida, right? I mean, you got any family? You concerned about this Hurricane Ian? And he said, yeah, I'm from Fort Myers.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And then it was like, so did your family evacuate? No, they're going to ride it out.
Yeah, boy.
Hasn't heard from them in 5 hours.
Right.
Last year they had 5 feet of water. He said the family house there's a lake right behind him. And he said one time there was a Hurricane Charlie in 2004 where the lake behind them would rise, 10, 15 feet.
Right.
And it brings in all these critters from the ocean. You got alligators and sharks and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So he's doing this thing and he's signing autographs and he's talking Packers football, but he's checking his phone like every 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I saw a video today of somebody in a neighborhood, and they had about 4 feet of water out front. You could see the street signs and the tops of the cars, and swimming like literally down the street was a shark. Right. Just swimming right down the street. Yeah. It was bizarre. Yeah.
And the difference about this in like 2005, where I got called back in to help do a recording for Brett Favre, Aaron Popke brought me in, and I'm sitting there, and Favre is looking at the Weather Channel, and he said, I've been up all night. This was Hurricane Katrina hitting Mississippi. And this was when, we found out he had not heard from his mom or his grandmother for almost 2 days, and it's because they were stuck up in an attic. The storm surge had blown out the bottom half of their house and half of his high school and college trophies. So it's interesting how these things happen. The only difference, of course, Bill, is today it's the iPhone era. Everyone's got a camera, and the pictures that are being posted on social media are just incredible.
Yeah, no doubt. I've seen a lot of it today. I've been sitting here scrolling through many different social media platforms today just to see some of what's going on down there. Now, we do know, Mike, that going to the game on Sunday, Mac Jones, he's not going to play. I know Bill Belichick's trying to be coy, saying he's day-to-day, and he's been improving over the last 24, 48 hours, but Mac Jones isn't going to play. I mean, what kind of a challenge does Brian Hoyer bring to that defense, speaking of Devondre Campbell?
Well, I thought LaFleur put it best. I mean, let's face it, there's games that Brian Hoyer has won, and there's times where you thought maybe he could be the starter in Cleveland and some of these other stops along the way. But the bottom line is you got a 36-year-old quarterback with plenty of experience that's been in their system, and underscore that's been in what the Patriots' offensive system is right now. And so he'll be very comfortable. He might be one of the tougher outs as a backup quarterback that you could ever hope to face. Now, I'll tell you, Aaron Rodgers was pretty relaxed today. Still, he knows that he's going to, anytime, regardless of the strength of the roster, a Bill Belichick team is always going to be extremely well prepared. They're going to be focused. They're going to have that little index card with the top 5 or 6 things that you specifically are supposed to concentrate on in this game, and that's the underscore to the do your job thing that Belichick always is.
Right.
Both that on special teams. So, it'll be a tough out. Today at practice, Jair Alexander with the groin injury, limited in practice. So that's a good sign that, it's not so severe that, he's close to IR. They signed a journeyman cornerback today, so that first that got people concerned about what was going on. But at least Jair Alexander reported being limited in practice today with his groin injury.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, is this a game with now? Again, I don't mean to degrade Brian Hoyer, but is this a game you have to have Jair back? Would you prefer to sit him? Because we're talking about a groin injury that if you stress it again and it'll only get worse and take longer to come back. I don't know necessarily that I'd play him in this game, Mike.
I'll bet you that's the way this thing plays out too. He'll just be limited all week. They got the Giants after that, and the schedule gets a little bit tougher on down the road. But no, I mean, you don't want to screw up that guy and have some sort of a setback. Just after 3-4 weeks into the season. What else? Elton Jenkins did not practice today.
Yeah.
Bakhtiari was limited. We got to talk to Luke Butkus, the offensive line coach, about just the balancing act it's like for him every day to put together these drills and practices and have to consult with the trainer and LaFleur and even get some input from Gutekunst on, all right, how much can I work Bakhtiari and Jenkins today? But, he said, obviously the payoff is you've got two all-pro, kinds of tackles eventually that you hope to get back into the game 100%.
Was Elton Jenkins out just because coming off, of the knee, obviously, and getting him back into the swing of things, just giving him a Veterans Day of rest, or was there a reason?
No, there isn't a reason. It was just, that he rested today and Bakhtiari was limited. The other thing about it, though, is it was also a very light practice. A week ago today, LaFleur decided to put on the pads and throttle up, and he ends up losing Sammy Watkins with a hamstring injury, who they, put on 4-week IR. So LaFleur is like, look, my guys just came back from a late game on Sunday in 90-degree heat, a very physical game, and even talking to Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell in here, they readily admitted they're still pretty sore from that game. That was a very physical game down there in Tampa. So, he's going to go light and install the game plan first, and then maybe give him a run around a little bit more tomorrow afternoon.
Mike, I've been talking about it kind of all day, that the average for Aaron Rodgers for passes completed downfield is only like 3.5 to 4.5 yards per completion on average so far early this season. Now, obviously, that changes if Christian Watson pulls in that deep bomb to start the season off. But does it concern you at all that the pass rush in his face or the inability for people to get open downfield, that there isn't a downfield threat on this team?
Yeah. Speed is probably the answer there, and getting open. And, Dobbs right now, your rookie to be – that's a stat I need to look up. When's the last time that a rookie in the Aaron Rodgers era led with most receptions for the team in a regular season game? You have to go back quite a ways to see if that has ever happened. Here's the other thing that he could really use is Bobby Tunyon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question. I just talked to John Dunn, the tight end coach, tonight about that. He came down and talked to us, and he admitted that that Tunyon's still on a bit of a pitch count. And sometimes you have to even hold these guys back. So they don't want them to overdo it. And the other thing is, what it is, Bill? They'll run the route and they'll catch the ball. This tight end with an ACL.
Yeah.
It's what they do after
Right.
that. It's the confidence to put the yak and to crash through guys and to carry guys on your back. That's what they're trying to sort of get over, and that's what he needs to overcome to feel like he's 100%.
Hey, real quick before I let you go, you're talking about Quay Walker and obviously the young guys we've been discussing, but Devontae Wyatt, not a lot of snaps right now. Is there a reason for that, or is it just because they a lot of times go to nickel or dime and they're not using 2 big guys or 3 big guys up front? He's not getting into the rotation much. Is there a reason they're not using him?
I think there's the first reason is health. They're doing pretty good up front for health, knock on wood. And secondly, the kid's got a lot to learn. That's all. He's a big kid. He's quick, but he's got a lot to learn. So he was kind of an instinctive player at Georgia. But that's just from what I can tell, from what I watch, when I watch those guys working drills and all that, he's getting a lot of talking to on the field, a lot of things you got to learn about his technique. So that's that's why he's the fifth or sixth guy, in line when it comes to defensive linemen for the Green Bay Packers.
Mike, good stuff. Anything else before we cut you loose?
No, just that I'm going to get back in there and hang out with these guys, and but, and then it'll be all night long. We'll be going over notes for what's going on in New England.
Yeah.
And getting ready to talk to tomorrow morning. I'll do a live break, and it's a big game. It's and there's there's already fans are arriving and all. It should be a great fall weekend of football here at 1265, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to get a bill for a lot of singles that were taken out of a local ATM machine too later on tonight. So, Mike, you be good.
That could happen. That could happen. That could happen.
All right,
sure.
buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, well, I'll talk to you next week, and I'll see you up here at the game, Bill.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. There you go. Mike Clemens joining us for a couple of minutes in Green Bay. Got an update. I think you want to take a look at or take a listen to when we come back. It involves, again, the continuing saga that is taking place in the state of Mississippi regarding one of the Packers' fan favorites. Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live here at Bullwinkles. We are in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and right behind Cops on Blue Mountain Road. It's Bullwinkles in the Galleria. Stop on by and say hi. And the bar area, we're packed. We're full right now. But there is some room with some tables and such, but they're just clearing one off. Some people just got up and left. So if you want to come by and say hi, it'd be great. They got a lot of Bud Light specials going on right now. But we're pretty crowded in here. They're giving away hats and shirts and tchotchkes and getting you registered for big screen TV at the end of the season. Stop by Bullwinkles. We got more coming up right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network. Yarr.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad you're with us. We are broadcasting live. We are here at Bullwinkles. We're in Brookfield, Wisconsin. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up. We got Ben Brown from Pro Football Focus going to join us coming up here in a couple of minutes. But The Athletic did a deep dive into Brett Favre and this whole situation coming up. Oh, by the way, we got Grant Bills, which is coming up next. And then Ben Brown, and then our buddy Chuck Freimund is going to be joining us. And then we'll do some picks after that. But we can deal more with this tomorrow. But basically, what they found out was that Brett Favre's charity, which was supposed to support disadvantaged children and cancer patients, donated a boatload of money to Southern Miss and the Athletic Foundation during the same years that Favre was working to finance the new volleyball center at the school. There is a company called Charity Watch that says that, look, they can claim some things in this charitable venture to the letter of the law. Maybe they're not illegal, but certainly in the spirit of the law, people thought it was going to kids with cancer and not to go and build a volleyball facility at Southern Miss. Also, Favre received $1.1 million for speeches he never made, according to the state audit report in the court documents, and was instrumental in moving more than $5 million in welfare money towards the building of this volleyball facility while his daughter was a player at USM. He attempted to get an additional $5 million for a strength training facility at Southern Miss for the football team, but that failed. Favre since has paid back the $1.1 million, but still owes the state $228,000 because of interest. He's not been charged with wrongdoing, but it looks worse and worse and worse for Brett Favre. Basically, they're stealing money, is what people are saying, from the poor to give towards athletic facilities, give it back to Southern Miss, and taking from Deanna's charity, the breast cancer charity. Remember when she had breast cancer? Combining that with the Favre for Hope Foundation and giving money for athletic facilities. It gets worse for Brett Favre. Stay tuned. 1 hour down. Grant Bills up next. We got more of the Bill Michaels Huddle brought to you by Bud Light at Bullwinkles in Brookfield right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers held a light jog through practice today as they begin their prep for the Patriots this Sunday. Only two players didn't take part, tackles Elton Jenkins and Caleb Jones. Quarterback Jerry Alexander was out there on a limited basis despite leaving last Sunday's game with a groin injury. Coach Matt LaFleur called him day-to-day. As for the Patriots, quarterback Mac Jones did not practice today due to an ankle injury. Bill Belichick calling him day-to-day, but most expect him to miss a few games. Patriots would start veteran Brian Hoyer if Jones can't go. For LaFleur, he said it doesn't really change how they'll prepare.
You just got to do the best job you can, and it doesn't matter. I mean, whoever's out there, you just got to adjust and adapt, and it's a little bit different than when you're going against a guy that is a real mobile quarterback, and then you have to go to a pocket passer. So I wouldn't expect a whole lot of difference within their game plan on how they want to attack us.
Packers are 2-1. Patriots 1-2. Kick is at 325. Turn to the Badgers. They're going to welcome back former coach Brett Bielema to the sideline when he brings his Illinois team to town this Saturday. Bielema second all-time in wins at Wisconsin, but current coach Paul Chryst can tie him with a win this week. Kick is set for 11 a.m.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Brewers are back in action tonight as they take on the Cardinals once again. Milwaukee enters tonight sitting a game and a half back of Philadelphia for the final wild card spot in the National League. Phillies are in Chicago again to take on the Cubs. Milwaukee has just 8 games left this year. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil-Pritt.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold.
158, go!
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad you're with us, and we are broadcasting live. We are at Bullwinkles here in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And not the old place over by Barker Road, but the new place, which is right behind Cops here on Blue Mountain Road. Beautiful place. Beautiful. Boy, you talk about an upgrade. I know they got just a tad bit smaller, but man, oh man. Stunning place. They did a fantastic job. Kept the menu, which I always loved. And tonight we are brought to you by, as the Huddle is always brought to you by, our friends at Bud Light. They have some really good Bud Light specials going on here, tchotchkes and stuff to give away. So shirts, hats, all that kind of good stuff. Thanks to our friends at Bud Light. Joining us now from the Wisco Sports Show up in La Crosse, who I will be visiting tomorrow night and for the weekend, our buddy Grant Bills. Grant, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing swell, Bill. The entire city is, you can just feel the anticipation with your visit looming. Yeah, we're good. Getting ready for Fest. Fest is a huge deal. If you've never experienced it before, you can't really grasp like how big of a deal it is for all the bars and restaurants and everyone who lives here. Like it's a pretty nuts event. So certainly takes a lot of prep. So we're getting ready, and we have a lot of stations in our building that are going to be out and about, and there's a lot of work that goes into it by a lot of people who live here. So it's exciting, but definitely a busy week.
Yeah, it is. A lot of the station staff is a part of that down there. So I usually see a lot of them running around in their lederhosen and stuff once we get there. So I guess there's a tasting tomorrow. And you and I are going to be together on Friday, right?
Yeah, Friday morning we start the party at 6. All the bars open at 6. On Friday morning, because the parade is a couple of hours later. So all the bars downtown, and the bar that we're going to be at is close to downtown, but it's a little farther north, and that'll be open at 6, and it'll be packed probably by 7, and that's just, that's the way that it is.
As long as I'm in good shape to be able to do the show by 10. That's all I care
how do you think I feel? I gotta wait until 4, so I have time to recover, but I also I just have time to fall asleep throughout the day. That's the challenge every year, because my Friday always starts so early, but then I gotta wait until 4 when I go on air. So that's been a challenge, but I think I've got it down to a science.
Well, looking forward to it. We'll be out there tomorrow night for some of the tastings, but in the meantime, the Green Bay Packers get ready for the Mackless Jones and the New England Patriots. I was talking all day about this short passing yard average out of Aaron Rodgers and what this means basically. Can they continue to win this way? And I know they can in the regular season, especially after the next 4 contests they have coming up. But does it start to concern you at some point that they're not going downfield? They don't have that big play capability right now.
Yeah, they don't. They have no way of stretching the field. And look, they had to win that way against Tampa, right? I think that's important to point out, because Tampa's defense is unbelievable. They didn't have the personnel to match up with Tampa and push the ball down the field. Now, they're probably not going to have to play that way every week. The Patriots defense, the Giants, the Jets, all these teams they have coming up don't have defenses near what Tampa has. So they're not going to have to play the same way that they did on Sunday, but they're going to have to develop a threat downfield. Without Devontae Adams. That might be when Watson comes back, or they might have to piecemeal it. They might have to send different guys deep, but they need to find a way to stretch the defense. I get it's fun to put 2 running backs in the backfield with Jones and Dillon. That hasn't really worked. They've gotten Cobb and Dobbs involved, but it hasn't been down the field. At some point, though, they're going to have to find a way without Devontae Adams to stretch the defense vertically and force defenses to cover the entire field. And they just haven't been able to do that yet, which I guess isn't shocking, because they're trying to figure out what this receiving core is going to look like and how the offense is going to run. It is super early. We're so intense. We talk so much about each and every game, but they've only played 3 games. And the Packers basically don't even try week 1. So really we've had 2 games, and one of them was against the Bears, who were terrible. So we're really at a point where we don't know a whole lot about how this offense is going to run. And they're discovering things and finding things out. So it'll be a process, no doubt, moving forward.
I bring it up. It's a fact. I mean, it's nothing to where it's a predictor, but I do think to myself, and exactly what I said at the beginning of the season. I said, I don't have a problem dinking and dunking your way down the field, putting a lot of guys in motion, finding short outs, throwing it to guys, letting them do their things, yard after the catch. I only get concerned for this team when it comes to a 2-minute drive, a minute 50 or whatever, and you're down 7. And you got to go 80 yards. They don't have that legitimate deep threat, right?
Well, and Bill, what kind of difference on Sunday would one 60-yard play have made? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if they could have had one play that moved them 60 yards at any point, that completely would have tilted the game, right? But they didn't have that in their arsenal, and neither did the Bucs, which is why the game felt like it was deadlocked for so long. It was like watching Iowa and Northwestern. It's like, okay, yeah, we can run the ball and we can play field position, and that's great, but if either the Packers or the Bucs just would have hit one 60-yard play on Sunday, that very well could have decided the game, but neither team was able to do it. So I'm with you. In 2-minute scenarios, absolutely, you need to be able to create big plays and cover lots of ground in a short amount of time, but, you know, they just need a way to find easy offense, too. And a 60-yard pass, I mean, that's easy. You're not having to execute for 6-7 straight plays to pick up that yardage, where if you can do it in one play, that's less risk of something going wrong, less risk of a penalty. So they are going to have to find a way to get easy yards, whether it be in the 2-minute or just over the course of the game, because especially on Sunday, like I said, one 60-yard big play would have made a world of difference.
What is there a player or a breakout that you're looking for specifically? We talked with Mike Clemens earlier, and he said we're really looking to get, Robert Tonyan off the pitch count, or is it the return of Christian Watson, or is it, is it the return of Sammy White? What are you looking for that you say, okay, when this happens, we're going to start seeing things really materialize?
Well, I think when Robert Tonyan gets more comfortable, and I don't know when that will be, when he can be a legitimate passing threat to attack the middle of the field and in the red zone, that's going to make a huge difference. I don't know where he is with his knee. I don't know what he's feeling like. Sometimes it takes an entire year after coming back from the injury to really feel like yourself. Maybe that's Robert Tonyan. I want Watson to get back so they can feed him the ball, because these next couple of weeks, Bill, they don't play any juggernaut teams. Patriots, Giants, Jets, Commanders, and then they have the Bills on Sunday Night Football. For the next month, they're going to have a lot of games where they're favored, where they should win, and these games are good opportunities to help work Watson in and get him reps. So I want him back and healthy. I think one player that needs to do a little bit more than he has so far, Bill, is probably A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones has been phenomenal. A.J. Dillon will, ground and pound you for 3-4 yards at a time, but I need some dynamic playmaking. I need a little bit more. Otherwise, he's a guy that's a battering ram in the cold weather. And that's great, I guess. But for a player who is selected that high, and I think we all agree A.J. Dillon's one of their best 2, 3, 4 offensive players, need a little bit more from him. So I don't know how they get him rolling or different ways they can use him, but we need to get a little bit more juice from A.J. Dillon, because the squeeze just isn't providing much. Aaron Jones has been phenomenal. Need to find some more creative ways to get Aaron Jones the ball, because 3-4 yard runs here and there, that's just not going to cut it.
Talking with Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So looking at the offensive line, Elton Jenkins sat today, more of a rest day than anything, and you've got David Bakhtiari starting to come back. How would you place together the 5-man front of the offensive line once Bakhtiari is fully healthy?
Let's see, Bakhtiari at left tackle. I like Elton Jenkins at guard. Like, maybe you can play Yosh Nijman at right tackle. You can keep Elton Jenkins at guard, John Runyon Jr. and Josh Myers. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to spin it. And what is frustrating to me, Bill, is Matt LaFleur really hasn't shown that he's great at this. I think Adam Stenavich is great at just producing offensive linemen. Like, they have 2 left tackles right now. There are teams that don't have one. The Packers have the luxury of rotating their left tackles, right? Elton Jenkins can play anywhere. Josh Myers is making some nice progress. And then there's this young guy, Zach Tom, who they really like, and he can play a bunch of positions as well. That's great. Matt LaFleur, however, has not shown that he's great at deciding who should play where and when. So hopefully in his 4th year as Packers coach now, he's gotten a little bit better at that. I think they could go lots of different ways. I think Nijman, though, has proved that he's good enough to be a starting tackle, right, Bill? So even when Bakhtiari comes back, I got to think if they play Nijman at right tackle and they can utilize Jenkins at guard, which we forget was his natural position when he came into the league, that would be my preference.
Right. Yeah, I would probably go with if Yosh Nijman could play right tackle and switch and put Elton Jenkins back in at the right guard. Then you got Bakhtiari and John Runyon with Josh Myers in the middle. Man, you talk about being solid. I mean, that goes back. And then that may go hand in hand with the fact that there's better protection, more time to throw the ball, which allows more things to open up downfield. Maybe the downfield passing games materializes in that direction as well, right?
Yeah, it's all connected, and on the other side of that coin, Bill, if the wide receivers can get open quickly, that makes life easier on the offensive line, right? So just little incremental improvements here and there from wide receiver and offensive linemen, it's going to improve the entire offense. You get a little more protection, it's easier to push the ball down the field, And if the guys down the field are getting open, that makes life easier on the offensive line. I am intrigued at pairing Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins together on the left side of the line. That's Aaron Rodgers' line side, obviously. That would be a real position of strength. And if you wanted to run to the left side, if you really wanted to, especially late in the year, if you wanted to get A.J. Dillon rolling, you could confidently run behind the left side of that line and pair two of your best players together to really lock down the left side. I really like the idea of that. But yes, you're absolutely right. If the offensive line can just improve a little bit as Bakhtiari gets healthier and they kind of settle in, that makes life easier on the wide receivers, and hopefully that leads to some big plays like we've been talking about.
Defensively speaking, Devontae Wyatt, Mike Clemens said, not getting a lot of playing time. He's got a lot to learn. But also Dean Lowry, Kenny Clark, Jerron Reed, even T.J. Slayton to a certain extent. The rotation up front has been pretty good. We can't complain about getting blown up, allowing a lot of run yards, getting into the secondary, getting into the middle linebacking core. The defensive front has been everything it's been projected to be, right?
I think so. And I expected them to be crazy good against Tampa, and they were, because Tampa Bay's offensive line is beat up. Look, the start of the season is really weird, and it's not all that different from last year, Bill, in that they basically didn't try week one, so we can't really take any of that seriously. Week two was against the Bears, like last year was against the Lions, so we can't really take away much from that. Week three was really, I think, their first test, and I thought they passed with flying colors. I know they gave up some rushing yards against the Bears, but who cares? You're up by multiple scores. If David Montgomery wants to reel off 6 yards in a carry, I don't care. And I don't think they did either. I think the game was in hand at that time. The Packers have so many good players up front. Kenny Clark might be their best player through 3 weeks, excluding Aaron Rodgers, who's obviously, the quarterback, and you evaluate that position differently. But Kenny Clark has been a monster, and he finally has competent players to rotate in next to him. And then, of course, Rashawn Gary. They're going to have an opportunity over the next couple of weeks to really, really dominate, because none of these teams on the horizon are that great. And, you've seen, Bill, like Micah Parsons, right? The way that he can absolutely just destroy a game by himself. Rashawn Gary is not Micah Parsons, but you see on a week-to-week basis, when you have one edge rusher that's rushing against the left tackle or offensive lineman that can do nothing with him, everything else on the field almost becomes secondary. Even if the coverage can't hold up or the linebackers can't tackle, if you have that one special player up front that can get to the quarterback and wreck a game, it almost makes everything else a moot point. And I think the Packers have 2 guys. I think they have Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary. And I'm really excited to watch this defensive front the rest of the year, Bill. Yeah, I love what they've done in the trenches, right, where the Packers historically have been beat up by teams like the Niners and the Bucs the last couple of seasons.
Okay, before I let you go, Matt LaFleur is 11-1 in the month of October, a .917 winning percentage, ranks number 1 in the NFL since 2019. Do they lose in the month of October? And you remember, over the next 4 games, they got the Patriots, Giants, Jets, and Washington. But Sunday, October 30th, they play the Bills. So 5 games in the month of October, not just 4.
Well, they should win the next 4 games pretty comfortably, but there are results in the NFL every week that are surprising, Bill. So I know it was easy for us to say the Packers are about to rattle off 4 wins in a row, but as soon as you do that, then they lose a game that you don't expect, right? When you try to win-loss the schedule at the beginning of the year, there's always going to be some weird game in there. So the Packers should win the next 4 weeks. I am very confident that they're going to stomp the Patriots on Sunday. And I felt that way before Mac Jones got hurt. I'm like, they are going to demolish this team at Lambeau. I think we're actually going to get this Sunday an old-fashioned Lambeau Field blowout, which we used to get all the time, and we don't really get anymore. We get close to blowouts, but they never really get there. I think this Sunday, if this Packers defense is really as good as I think it is, and the offense is coming along, they should open up a can against the Patriots this weekend. And then, there's some moments for Matt LaFleur in the weeks to come, right? Is he going to keep his guys engaged and focus with a London trip on the horizon, or knowing that they have to go to Buffalo and play that team that's an absolute house? So I think the next 4 weeks, you mentioned Matt LaFleur, I think it's a great talking point to follow. How does Matt LaFleur navigate these next couple of weeks with a couple of distractions? How does he keep his team centered against some teams that they should definitely beat? I think the next month is a great test for Matt LaFleur, and I'm excited to see how he coaches his way through it.
Yep, no doubt. I believe they're going to get a win as well. Grant, always good to talk to you, pal. We appreciate it, okay?
Thanks, Bill. I'll see you soon. Travel safe to lacrosse this weekend. Thanks for having me.
I'll see you up there tomorrow night, pal. Talk to you then. There you go. That's our buddy Grant Bills joining us from the Wisco Sports Show for a couple of minutes, and we're broadcasting live. We're at Bullwinkles. We're here in Brookfield. Stop on out and say hi. Still here for another 45 minutes if you want to come by. Terrific food, and brought to you by Bud Light. They have Bud Light specials going on all night long. Thanks to our friends at Bud Light for being here in the house as well, giving away some hats and shirts and tchotchkes and all kinds of stuff in the Bud Light specials as well. More of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you on board. We are broadcasting live. We are at Bullwinkles here in Brookfield. Brewers game on the tube right now. Brewers trying to knock off the Cardinals, and you got the Phillies and Cubs on the tube as well. Both games scoreless right now as the Brewers try to inch within a half game of Philadelphia for that final wild card spot. So we'll be paying attention to that. In the meantime, the Milwaukee Brewers, or the Green Bay Packers, they continue to get ready in their preparation for Mac Jones, Liss, and company, New England Patriots. Mike Clemens earlier today caught up with Randall Cobb, and Cobb now in his 12th season. We saw this past weekend he got loose. He got loose for 50 plus, and so how does he still have explosiveness in him at the age of 32?
It's really about just making guys miss when you get the ball in your hand. Whenever you're in open space, being able to do something with it. I try to make do with the opportunities that I get and really make people miss and in key situations, keep us on the field.
So, the big thing with Cobb, and don't forget when he talked earlier about, we heard earlier about, being sick last week, not feeling good, sleeping 13 hours, and then, going into the heat in Tampa Bay where it was 90 plus and humid down on the field. So after missing the practice all last week, sleeping, being sick, COVID, we all know, were his legs fresh or was he just feeling worn out?
I did. I felt really good. I was sick the week before and missed practice all week. And I came in on Saturday and I felt different. I was bouncing around a little bit more. I felt great going into the game. And, whenever I had the few opportunities that I had, just trying to make something happen with it.
So now a week away from the facility, not practicing, obviously at home, resting up, trying to feel better. I know when I get done being sick, you're still kind of dragging. So the fact that he came back and felt that much better and bounced around on game day, rather interesting. But he also had the revelation in this particular cut. Take a listen.
I don't know. I was pretty sick. I was pretty sick for a couple of days. I actually tested positive for COVID and had symptoms a few days before I actually tested positive. So I was pretty sick. It wasn't like I was just, I was just coughing and stuff. I was down. I slept 13 hours one night. So I luckily was able to come back on Saturday and was able to play and give everything I had in that little bit of time.
So you don't necessarily look at Randall Cobb and think of him as this deep downfield threat. We all know that. But he has that relationship with Aaron Rodgers. If he can give him a look, if he can know he's going to get open, if he's got something to give, just to be able to get free, he still can be somewhat elusive. And he talks about Aaron Rodgers. He's like, he doesn't throw over the middle often. He doesn't like to put it into those windows because there's too many fingertips, too many guys that can reach up and tap it into the air and then pick it off. But was the dart that he threw to Cobb on the left hash for 45 yards, was that something pretty special coming out of Rodgers' hand?
No, it wasn't. We've been running that play for years. I could put a highlight reel together of just that concept alone. It's really just an RPO. We were reading the background on that play and seeing if he was going to flow with the run action, and if he stays back and hangs back, then we'll hand the ball off. If he flows, and Aaron will get it out to me quick. And he kind of slow played it. He actually heard it was either the nickel or the safety told him, "Hey, they're reading you." So we tried to bait Aaron into throwing it, and he read it correctly. But yeah. He throws darts, but we catch him.
He throws darts. In the last 18 games at Lambeau Field against the AFC, the Packers have a 17-1 record, including winning now 10 in a row. He has completed 409 of 625. That's 65.4% for just over 5,000 yards, 5,076 to be exact, 48 touchdowns, 5 picks, and a passer rating of 112.7. Rodgers has thrown multiple TD passes in 16 of the last 18 games that he has played in. And overall, with Rodgers as the starting quarterback, the Packers 22-4 against the AFC at home, including wins in 19 of the last 20. And in those 26 games, the Packers have outscored AFC opponents 798 to 473. In other words, 30.7 points per game on average, giving up only 18.2 points per game on average. And they have a plus 33 turnover margin. So they're scoring, they're not turning the ball over, they're getting turnovers. Their defense is playing stout, all at home. The Packers have had a dominance against AFC teams, and here comes the New England Patriots into Lambeau Field for that mid-afternoon kickoff, in which it's going to be a 3:25 start. That game, by the way, on CBS. That is going to be a CBS game this coming weekend as well at Lambeau Field. We, again, are broadcasting live. We're out here at Bullwinkles in Brookfield. And coming up next, we're going to talk with our buddy Chuck Freimund. He's going to be joining us. We're going to get his thoughts on the game this past weekend against Tampa, finally getting over Tom Terrific, and then obviously looking ahead to what Bill Belichick may scheme up against Aaron Rodgers and company. Remember, Bill Belichick and Rodgers alluded to this, and so did Matt LaFleur earlier today in his press conference. Said, "Look, Bill Belichick, he does not go after your weakness. He goes after your strength. That's what he's good at. A lot of teams will say, let's find your weakness and exploit it. Belichick says, let's find your strength, get rid of it, and then go ahead and if you can beat us, which is almost counterintuitive in a lot of ways. But that's the way Belichick attacks you. So they were talking about this earlier today. So what do you think Bill Belichick may scheme up or what he's going to try to do to try to either, one, confuse or two, stymie the passing game? And really, it's going to be about stuffing the run if they possibly can. But the New England Patriots, decent defense coming into this. We're going to talk with Chuck Freimund from WIBA in Madison about it coming up next. Again, we are broadcasting live. We're here at Bullwinkles, and we're in Brookfield, Wisconsin. They got a terrific place. It's the new place. It's open. I have not been here since they opened up. But, boy, they did an absolutely fantastic job on this thing. And we are brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network and the Bill Michaels Huddle. Out here, they're giving away shirts and hats and some drink specials tonight as well. And if you want to come out and watch the Brewers game, you've also got the Cubs and the Phillies. And by the way, the Phillies just went up 1-0 in that contest down at Wrigley. You've also got the White Sox and the Twins on here as well. So a lot of local stuff or locally sent stuff, baseball-wise here at Bullwinkles tonight. So come on by and say hi. We're going to be back. Chuck Freeman's going to join us. That's coming up next on the Bill Michaels Huddle.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are live. We are at the Bill Michaels Huddle, by the way, out here at Bullwinkles. We are in Brookfield, Wisconsin, behind Cops on Blue Mountain Road. It's the new Bullwinkles, not the old place. No longer there. The new one, boy, they built back better, big time. They held up to their word here, no doubt. Good place. A lot of great decor in here. Food is still awesome. So if you get a chance to come on out, we are brought to you by Bud Light. They have Bud Light specials all night tonight for us. So really, really good stuff from our friends here at Bullwinkles. Joining us now on the hotline, our buddy Chuck Freimund, the sports anchor, Friday Night Lights, Badger Game Day, Packers coverage, all that stuff, WIBA out in Madison. Chucker, how you doing, pal?
Michaels, I have not been to the new Bullwinkles yet.
Yeah, this used to be our haunt. Yeah, this is you. We used to be where you and I would come all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The salad bowls were just amazing.
Oh,
I mean, that's one of those places that's always hopping. You know, there's some certain places that are just always buzzing. I always feel Bullwinkles is that place. It's always got a buzz to it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I completely get it. Hey, let me ask you this. Pat, let's go back to the win that the Packers had. Was this a good win, getting a win over Tom Brady by a couple of points, a place they don't traditionally play well down in Florida? Or was it just a win where it was ugly and they got a lot to work on if they're going to even think about getting deep into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, you know, early in the season, I don't know if you could be too judgmental on things. You know, I mean, I think, well, you know, Tampa, they are struggling offensively. So you could say, well, is it the Packer defense or is this Tampa? You know, Tampa just can't get going offensively. And that helped out. I just kept thinking that, all right, Tom Brady's going to find a way to cut our hearts out here. That he's going to find a way. And, of course, you knew he was going to have that fourth quarter drive. I mean, you just knew that was going to happen. And, you know, fortunately, the Packers hung on. But, yeah, I mean, 2-1. I'm delighted, man. Rodgers didn't practice, like we talked about last week. Rodgers didn't practice at all with the team or didn't play any preseason games with these guys. And they're 2-1 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to go 11-4 or whatever? 15-2? No, that's not going to happen.
So the offense right now, Chuck, not a lot of downfield passing, not a lot of over the top, not prolific. Concern you at all that they don't have this downfield game, or just they're just kind of feeling their way through the? I don't want to call it the dink and dunk because I don't want to disparage what it is they do, but just, motion and just kind of taking what the defense gives you.
Yeah, well, they don't, again, he's still working with the young and tested wide receivers. Romeo Dobbs, 14 catches through 3 games. That's some rare air. You see that the other day where they said there's only 2 other guys. One of the guys was Steve Largent, who've had that many catches in their first 3 games in the NFL. So, this guy has come in. He's performed well at the mini camps and training camps. And no, I just think they're fine. Aaron Jones, that was the problem, I thought, the other day. They didn't get him going. He had 32 yards rushing. So, no, I just think they're working their way through things. And, they got a lot of hamstring injuries, Bill, at the wide receiver spot. That Sammy Watkins thing, Bill, is gosh, man, if that guy could just stay healthy. I love him. I absolutely love him when he's healthy. I wanted the Packers to get him a couple of years ago before he went to Kansas City. But, gosh, the guy just can't stay healthy. And I hope this injury list thing is short-term with him and hamstrings never seem to be, but, man, they could really use him.
What do you think about the possibility? Because they thought about the middle of October once they started to see separation for teams, and that is OBJ and his representation. Would you look in terms of Odell Beckham Jr.?
Or if we could get Devontae back, Bill. Devontae doesn't seem like he's too happy these days.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, we all told them. We told you so on that one. Hey, Bill, we
Right.
told Devontae, hey,
Right.
you know what? Yeah, I would look at OBJ. Why not? Bring somebody in. The Packers seem always unwilling to go up there and get a guy who's had a little bit of a past. But yeah, I would be all for that. I was good with that a few years ago as well. If they would have picked him up after he was done with Cleveland. So yeah, I'm for that. It just got OBJ. Some of these guys just talk themselves right out of the league, and I don't get it. They just do. Some of these players just, they're not happy. They're never happy, and they just, God, before you know it, they're toward the end of their careers, and nobody wants to pick them up. Why? Because they're a pain in the ass. That's why.
Yeah. He kind of figured he'd be able to heal up and be back, and he wants to pick his team rather than a team pick him. I don't know if you're going to have a lot of choices, but I would assume that a team that's in the hunt may look for his services. And if the Packers don't have that legitimate downfield threat and he's got his speed back, then that might be an area that you go. Chuck, defensively speaking, they looked good against Tampa Bay. They played really, really well. Now, granted, Tampa didn't have all the weapons. I understand that. But they did what they were supposed to do. They only gave up 12 points, a couple of field goals, and a touchdown, which is fantastic against Brady. Do you think the defense feasts over the next 4 games?
Well, the defense is going to be the calling card of that team. They've obviously made a commitment to defense. That Nixon played well the other day in the secondary.
Yeah.
So they've made a commitment. They've made a commitment on defense by the way they drafted the last few years. That this is how we're going to have to win some football games. They're going to, because that next Hall of Fame quarterback's not walking through 1265 Lombardi anytime soon, unless you have some inside information about that. But I don't think that's happening. I
agree with that.
So, but I've always wondered, Bill. Now, a team that plays in the cold and up in Green Bay, wouldn't you figure that their mode of winning football games would be run the football, play some defense, keep it, a New York Giants thing of the 90s, low scoring, run the football, and play some defense. Here, instead, we're trying to get it done with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks throwing the ball all over the yard in blizzard-like conditions sometimes.
Right. No, I completely agree. I wonder, and going back to our discussion about the offense, I wonder how good it's going to be once you've got your offensive line figured out. Because I think most people would say that if Josh Nijman can play right tackle, Elton Jenkins goes to guard, he goes to right tackle, Bakhtiari's back, then you've got yourself solidified an offensive line that can run block, that can pass block, and then the offense should get exceptionally better. And I think if this offense gets better and the defense begins to feast and really feel it with no injuries and you get Jair back, man, I just wonder how good this team can actually be. You know what I mean?
Well, they can. I just think what's the ceiling on that, though? What's the end game? Are they good enough to beat the bad teams? Are they good enough to – because this is how the Packers have been. they've okay. I mean, and I'm not saying Tampa's a bad team. I'm saying down the road. Look at last year. Nobody destroys and takes apart a bad team quite like Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. But then when push comes to shove, you get to the second round of the playoffs, and it's oh boy, it's then they're in for a tussle. But the Packers will beat their fair share of bad teams, and I just like this week with New England, Bill.
Yeah,
I was hoping Mac Jones was going to play because I want to beat teams when they're at their fullest strength, especially at this time of the year, because I want the Packers to get tested a little bit. I don't want them to beat a watered down, and people will say, well, they're still going to get a win out of it, but I want them to get better. And playing against a team with Mac Jones on the other side, that's some competition right there. I think that's what this team needs. To go out there and beat good teams. So when you get to the playoffs, you're tested for the postseason. So
yeah, I agree with you. You brought up a good point. I mean, they're good enough to beat the bad teams. What do you think they're going to end up doing against the good teams? I mean, I kind of throw that first game out against the Vikings a little bit just because it just seemed like things steamrolled downhill very quickly for that team and they just got out of their game. What I wonder about, though, is when Aaron Jones went and fumbled the football away on the 1-yard line in the Tampa game, much like he did in the Tampa game in the NFC Championship game and last year when Mercedes Lewis fumbled against the San Francisco 49ers, this team, for whatever reason, folds their tent and goes home, and their fourth quarter scoring prowess is nil. I think they've got 3 points in the fourth quarter so far after 3 games. I wonder how concerning that is because they've scored, I think I wrote down like 30 points or 38 points in the first half, and they've only got like a total of 10 in the second thus far and only 3 points in the fourth quarter. Are we just seeing a team that gets off to a fast start with the first 16 or 20 scripted plays, and then after that they don't really adjust?
Now that you mentioned it, Bill, I feel like that's a problem that's been going on for a long time. Get out to that quick early lead and then take the foot off the pedal. It doesn't seem like that's been the case many times.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they'll get off to a slow start, but they'll get off to a good start, and all of a sudden, hey, where's everybody? It's just they're stuck in mud. Yeah, that's an interesting stat. And Tampa's, they've been winning it. Their defense has been very good through the first 3 games of the season, so that might have something to do with that this past week. But I mean, for the Packers to go out and trounce Chicago 2 weeks ago like they did, I'm like, yeah, okay, because they've done that. I've seen that movie before. Get me to a good team on the road, and Tampa was watered down because they had injuries.
Yeah.
And then let me see what's going to happen. So, I mean, I've been fooled by this team. The Packers will win 38-7, 10-point favorite, and they'll crush somebody at home. And down that road, gosh, I've seen it. Okay, Jacksonville or whatever. But I just want them to beat a good team. And New England is not going to be a good team coming in here because they're going to be without their starting quarterback.
Yep, no doubt. Chuck, always good to chat with you, pal. I appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Michael's my pleasure. Next time, Bullwinkles, my friend.
Bullwinkles, yeah. We got to get out here. No doubt about it. We'll swing down a few beers and kind of go from there. Good stuff, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, Bill. Thanks.
Talk to you. There you go. Chuck Freimund joining us for a couple of minutes on the hotline. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We are live. We're at Bullwinkles. We're out here in Brookfield. We're going to make some picks of the upcoming games this week, starting tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, as the Miami Dolphins head over to Cincinnati. It is going to be a whiteout in Cincinnati. It's an awful look. It's atrocious, but it's going to be a whiteout in Cincinnati tomorrow. Ugh, gag me. There you have it. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We got more. The Bill Michaels Huddle coming up after this.
Where do we go? This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you on board. We are broadcasting live. We are here at Bullwinkles. We are in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And a final segment of the program before we get out of here. But thanks to the staff and management out here. They've always treated us great. And walking through the door again tonight after not being here since they closed the old place and opened the new one, picked up right where we left off. What a great relationship we've had with them over the years. And thanks to our friends at Bud Light as well for bringing us here and being a part of this, and obviously giving them the program here this evening. And just a really spectacular place if you haven't been here yet. And if you have been, well, then you know what the hell I'm talking about. You can continue to come back and support them. It's just that good. So there you go. The game's coming up beginning tomorrow night. Let's run through these things. And I got a little bit of a quandary, because on my fantasy team, I have both Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. Against the Dolphins defense, they've been pretty solid, but they did give up a ton of yards last week. And I'm a little leery about starting Joe Burrow again. Joe Burrow finally got me some points, but Burrow against that defense, I'm not so sure of. I don't know if he's going to get me 3 touchdowns again this week, but the Cincinnati Bengals, coming off of their first win of the season over the New York Jets last week, now face an undefeated Dolphins team that's leading the AFC. Bengals looking to try to climb back. They're without their best defensive linemen. Their offensive line is still somewhat of a mess, but they're doing the whiteout at home. They've got a lot of energy in the Queen City. I'm going to take Cincinnati by a slim margin in this one coming up tomorrow night. Meanwhile, Ben, do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I'm with you. Them at home feel significant. The Dolphins, I think, are good, but 3-0 might be a little jacked up given the start. Like that Ravens game, they probably should not have won. And the Bills game as well. So I'm with you. I like the Bengals.
Game over in London. I'm going to take the Vikings on the road against the Saints. Saints hosting this one. Technically, that is a home game for them over in London. But I think the Saints have their own issues. Jameis Winston, although, defensively speaking, Jameis Winston under pressure is a terrible decision maker. And the Vikings like to bring the pressure now that they both have the bookends with Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith. I'm going to take the Vikings just because I don't have a lot of faith in Jameis Winston in that one. Ben, I'll throw them all back to you. I ask you your opinion on these as well. So do you got the Vikings on the road?
I like the Vikings. A run game travels even to England, and the Vikings have it. Hopefully they're all healthy up there. I believe they are. I think Cook went down last game, but I like the Vikings.
You got the Cleveland Browns at 2-1 on the road, taking on the lowly Falcons down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't have any faith in the Falcons at all. So I'm by default, I'm taking Cleveland to go 3-1 in the season on the road.
I like the Falcons here. They're a little sneaky on offense, and they finally decided to throw the ball to Kyle Pitts, generational talent at tight end. They're figuring some stuff out. I like the Falcons here.
You got the Falcons. Then a big one. This is the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Buffalo Bills. Both teams sitting at 2-1. Both teams have been beaten by the Miami Dolphins. The Bills racked up the yards last week, and the guy that is just playing out of his mind, already an early candidate for MVP, is Lamar Jackson, who bet on himself and cut off contract negotiations. The Ravens at home, I think, get the Bills. I think the Bills go to 2-2. The Ravens go to 3-1 on the season.
I like the Bills here. The Ravens secondary is proving to be quite poor, and Lamar Jackson can do a lot. I don't think he will do enough. The Bills are mad after last week. I think they bounce back.
You got the Washington. Well, at least we know their offensive coordinator's mad. Dorsey went absolutely ape-ass in the coaching box. The Washington Commanders on the road taking on the 2-1 Dallas Cowboys. Can Cooper Rush go 3-0? I say he does. I'm picking the Cowboys at home.
This is a disgusting game. If there's one thing we know about Carson Wentz is he holds the ball too long, he gets sacked, and he fumbles. Micah Parsons can do that all game long. I have the Cowboys as well.
Seattle Seahawks on the road taking on the Lions, who are pesky. I'm taking the Lions at home. The Seahawks are awful. I'm going to have the Lions going to 2-2 on the season.
Yeah, I have the Lions big here. The Seahawks suck. The Lions should have beat Minnesota last week. Dan Campbell kicked a field goal when he maybe should have gone for it to ice the game there. I think they come back motivated and win easily.
Chargers with a banged-up team go on the road. They take on the Texans, who are 0-2-1. The Chargers 1-2. By all intents and purposes, the Chargers should win this game, but they're beat up. I think the Chargers win, but I don't think they win by a lot. And the Texans, given their record, they still play hard. Lovie Smith has at least got them playing hard. They don't quit. So I'm going to take the Chargers, but not by a big margin in this one.
I either think the Chargers blow them out or they suffer an unexplainable upset, even on the road to a Texans team. Texans might be without Dameon Pierce, their rookie running back from Florida. Chargers kind of have a vibe of it could go wrong and it could go really wrong there, where if it all falls apart, Bosa's on IR, maybe Staley's gone if it really falls off the cliff. So we'll see. It's an interesting game in that matter.
Colts get some mojo after they knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. They host the Titans coming into Indianapolis. I still think the Titans get the win in this one. They're able to run the ball a little bit better, I would assume, but the Colts are starting to feel it. In a close one, I've got the Titans on the road.
I'll take the Colts. They're at home. Yeah. I don't believe in Tannehill.
Which that's another reason I would not take the Titans, but I'll take them in a close one. The Bears on the road taking on the Giants. The Bears are terrible. I'm just taking the Giants at home.
I'll take the under.
Your Philadelphia Eagles facing Doug Peterson yet again. Here he comes back home, and where he won a championship with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Do the Eagles, do they come out victorious in this one? I say they do. They go to 4-0.
The Eagles win. Everybody has fun. Doug Peterson gets cheered. Everyone goes home happy, including Doug.
There you go. 2-1-2 teams that look bad. The Steelers are just the best of a bad lot. The Steelers at home taking on the Jets. The Jets are terrible. I'll take the Steelers to get the win to go to 2-2 on the season.
Yeah, I have some Mitch Trubisky stock, and now would be a great time for him to look a little bit better than he has. I would hope against the Jets he actually could. I have the Steelers. They better win easily. If they don't, I don't know what's going on there.
The Cardinals are on the road taking on the Panthers, and the Cardinals, I can't figure them out, but they're better than 1-2, and the Panthers aren't. So I'm going to take the Cardinals, another road team, to get a win in a close one.
I have the Panthers here. I have a running list throughout the season called Fraud Watch. The Cardinals last week have been taken off Fraud Watch officially. They now just flat out suck, and I like the Panthers at home.
The Patriots, we'll talk about that game coming up as they travel to Green Bay, but the Broncos and the Raiders, I think the Raiders get their first win of the season here. The Raiders are going to be back at home. The town is salivating for a victory. I think this is where they break out and actually get a win in this one, even though Derek Carr is probably going to get beat up. But the Broncos are a fraud, too. I'm going to go with the Raiders to get their first win of the season.
Ugh, what an ugly football game. I will not be watching this one, except I will be tracking Devontae Adams' lack of receptions and lack of production. I don't know. I guess I'll take the Raiders. The Broncos, I want to ask you this. Does Nathaniel Hackett make it through the season?
He does, but he's going to be a guy on the hot seat going into next year. For sure. The Chiefs and the Buccaneers, depending on where this game's played, I believe it's still going to be played in Tampa Bay. We'll have to wait and see. But I just don't. I think the Chiefs kind of rebound after the little spat they had on the sideline between Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy. I think the Chiefs get the win. They go to 3-1. The Buccaneers at 2-2.
Yep, I'm on the Chiefs. If it is played in Minnesota, Chiefs, no doubt, seem to be a better dome-type team, right, given the weapons and what they can do with speed. I like the Chiefs. The Bucs, I mean, we saw it last week. Even if you put Julio Jones on that offense, it's not there yet. They need everybody back. And Evans will be as well. But still, their offense is not where it needs to be.
Rams and 49ers, I have the Rams on the road, taking that one.
The Niners, inexplicable loss to the Broncos. If Jimmy G runs out of the end zone again, I will be proud, but I have the Rams, yes.
And press for time, I know we got about less than a minute, but I got the Packers 27-14 knocking off the Patriots at Lambeau Field. You?
I'll go higher. Packers 34, Patriots 11. It's going to be a weird score. They're going to be weird scores made. I don't know. I think the passing game figures it out. I'm not sold on this Patriots team.
There you have it. That's it. Good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But good stuff today. Appreciate everybody here at Bullwinkles at the bar and grill, and good to be out here again with our friends from Bud Light. Good to be a part of that, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow, then in lacrosse tomorrow night. Really good stuff. Until then, time for